and shown that there's no reason to assume that they're
the cosmological constant, though, it isn't really in line with the rest of it.
Sorry, what was that?
The cosmological constant, though, from what I understand, it isn't really in line with the rest of it.
Well, okay, that's one of them. That's one of them. I have a whole chapter on cosmological constant. And there's this statement made that it's fine-tuned to something like 10 to the 120th, Woodmark 10 to the 120th. And it turns out that that calculation, what they've done in making that calculation, the cosmological constants, I guess I have to go a little bit explanation here. The cosmological constant is something that was introduced by Einstein. It falls into his equation of general relativity. And it could be positive or negative, and if it's negative, it produces a repulsion, and that's the only explanation we have right now for the observed acceleration of the expansion of the universe that was discovered in 1998. And it's now well verified that the universe is not just expanding, but it's expanding faster and faster. It's actually accelerating in its expansion. And the cosmological constant is associated with the energy of the vacuum. In physics, the vacuum has energy. It's called zero-point energy, because nothing can have exactly zero energy according to quantum mechanics. So that's the zero-point energy. And if you calculate what the zero-point energy of the universe is, by adding up all of the energy of all of the, and it is a terrible calculation, and it's wrong. You shouldn't even talk about it, because anything that's that far from observation, first of all, you know it's wrong. Well, it turns out that there was a fundamental mistake that was made in that calculation. And that is, when you are counting up the number of states in the universe, you can't just count up the number of states in the following. Because the biggest number of states that a sphere can have is that of a black hole of the same size. And the number of states in a black hole has been proven by Stephen Hawking and others to be the surface, the numbers being proportional to the surface of the black hole rather than the volume. So if you add up the states of the universe by just summing over the volume, the area rather than the volume, the surface area, you get exactly what's observed. So that's not the accepted answer yet, because there's still some technical problems with it, but that's just one example. I give 2 or 3 other ways that the cosmological constant could be shown not to be fine-tuned for
I guess,
humanity.
Thank you, and I'm so sorry to drag you off, but I guess my other question would be, don't you think that from what I understand, atheists are compassionate people. I'm not an atheist, I'm just a layman scholar. And that compassion, the resources that go into religion and go into science, now that they've split, it seems like the resources aren't used efficiently. And I would believe that the atheists would say the compassion benefits all of us because of whatever you think we evolved into an insect colony thing. So that's how they justify compassion. And of course, religion will gather up great resources for what they have. So science and religion and atheists wouldn't, do you think science and at least spirituality, the general morals and whatnot, will ever come back together, or are they just going to continue to?
Well, no, I think they really are incompatible, even on the moral front. For example, in most religions say morality comes from God, and there's a huge literature now on evolutionary morality, even other mammals besides humans have morality, sort of proto-morality. Monkeys, elephants, porpoises, whales, they all have morality of some sort. And so, first of all, evolution does produce in more complex organisms a kind of a morality. And at the same time, we have our own brains that have evolved to the point where we can even overcome our own biological instincts. And that's the message that science has, is that morality is a human invention, our morality. some of it is evolved, but most of what we have that separates us from other species is something that we have invented as ways to live together in the world, and that the rules of behavior. Like the golden rule goes back thousands of years, well before Jesus, for example. Not only did Confucius give the golden rule, but you can find the golden rule in ancient Egypt, in hieroglyphics in ancient Egypt. So, look, we got to give somebody else a chance.
Sure.
Okay?
I just want to say how much I appreciate your book. But my comment is in line a lot with the gentleman here in the second row, in that I don't think that you can expose someone to science.
Could you open the other microphone, because that microphone has too much.
Maybe you're here.
I'll just yell. My comment is a lot like his. I think we do have a God center in our brains. I don't think that you can, expose someone to the wonders of science and any of that knowledge. I think they'll remain ignorant to it. And in the dark, if you say things, for example, like, I can scientifically prove, you're wrong, that there's no God, do you think that being so direct, even when you're right, alienates them and makes them...
I'm sorry, I can't understand you. I'm sorry.
Okay.
I don't have very good hearing, and your voice is producing too much of an echo for me that I can't understand. Is that any better?
I'm going to have to replace the battery or something.
Maybe somebody can summarize.
Okay, so basically she was saying that if you don't, that basically if you say that science has shown that God does not exist on a scientific level, that it dichotomizes their beliefs and isolates them,
And that they're not open to learning. I'm an atheist because in Christian school I had biology taught to me, and I think more and more people who are sitting on boards deciding what textbooks will be law are frightened of that because they probably very well know. And I think you can alienate people by saying you're wrong.
Let me just try to summarize my argument. First of all, it's not 100%. I mean, we're talking about, when I say we can show that God does not exist, I'm talking first of all the Judeo-Christian Islamic God, who plays such an important role in the universe. I mean, he's responsible for everything. Surely there should have been some evidence for that, and we can rule it out. But rule it out, not 100%. Everything in science is always provisional, so I use the term beyond a reasonable doubt. Just like a court of law. The evidence continues to pile up. At some point, you make a decision. The jury has to make a decision at some point. Never knowing the perfect case, not knowing every fact, but they still have to make a decision. And my point is that we can now live our lives pretty confidently without wasting it by spending money on religion, going to church, wasting our time. And also, but more important than that is adopting faith-based notions and ideas that are actually dangerous to yourselves, to your own life, and to society.
I may take the prerogative of standing on that a little bit. To some extent, this may be somewhat of a cultural difference, too. In science, when we write our papers about what our observations and conclusions are, we aren't apologetic about it. We just say, we have disproven this hypothesis. And we don't apologize to who's ever promoted that hypothesis. We just say that's what it is. And that isn't always the way that people react, but as scientists, that's how we end up doing it. The other thing is, there's another side to this, and I have thought a lot about it. Although it may come across as a little bit in your face when someone says, this is the way it is, there's another group of people out there that go, oh my gosh, I am not crazy. Finally someone is just saying it. Thank you very much. Right? I mean, it's like the emperor's clothes. And the kid goes, he's naked. Right? And everybody else was sitting around going, well, no one else is saying that. I must be the only one. Right? And it's just, actually, it's really a relief to have someone come and just say, look, I'm not going to pull any punches, and don't take offense. This is just the way it is. And the reality is, as I started off my talk, if you look, we have moved the center a lot in the last several millennia, right? Most of us no longer believe those things. So the reality is, in a certain way, it does work. But it's also true that we're all human beings, and the first thing we do when we're confronted with a statement that we're wrong is get defensive. And, you know, scientists are too, right? We take offense when someone attacks our theory, but we try to get beyond that. So anyway, end of my rant. Oh boy, that's starting a whole
Hello. I would say that, as you know, there's been in the humanist, atheist community this controversy over being accommodationist or confrontation. And it's been going on a lot. In fact, that happened a lot. I saw you at the CFI convention last October, and that was the main thing going on there. And I think most of the people I talked to, and I think the rest of us would probably say the same, there are times when, if you can be, you're accommodating in conversation, and at the same time, there are times where you really do have to confront bullshit, you know. And that's kind of what I think you're doing, and a lot of the new atheists are doing, is saying that we're not just going to listen to this and say, oh, we can't be critical because they'll feel bad, you know. And that's basically.
Yeah, I mean, you see, the accommodationist position is that we need to cooperate with, first of all, these are the leaders are the majority, and they control government in great proportion of the actual population. There's only one avowee is in all of Congress, and so we have to, if we want to have support for science. One of the reasons why I think most scientists don't want to get into the battle is because they're afraid of losing their funding. And of course, there's nothing more important to a research scientist than is their funding. I did research for 40 years, and I know how much fun it is. Have all these wonderful toys to play with, best computer, the best equipment, wonderful trips all over the world at government expense, eating wonderful food, drinking great wine, having terrific conversation. Most of my colleagues in the Y refuse to retire. The only reason I retired is because I had something I could do. But they can't imagine their lives ending up in winning without all this wonderful travel and good fun that they have. So they're not going to do anything to endanger their funding. So there's that element. And it's not the only element. I mean, there's a strategic idea here that if you want evolution, for example, to be taught in schools, you have to cooperate with the moderate believers who say they accept evolution. No, I'm not trying to argue that they really don't. Moderate Christians who say they accept evolution, Catholic Church, really don't. They believe in guided evolution. We've asked every survey that's taken shows there's virtually none of them who believe in evolution as it's really understood by evolutionists, by biologists. And so, but to get it taught in the school, you have to cooperate with them. And Richard Dawkins, in one of his books, says, you know, I listened to that argument and I really sympathize with it. I could see the need for it, the benefit for it. However, we're talking about something much more fundamental here than just whether or not some child hears the dirty word creation in school. We're dealing with the whole concept of superstition versus reality, versus reason versus faith. And it's important to make that distinction, to keep standing up for the scientific view. So, anyway, give someone else a chance.
All right, so in the Fallacy of Fine Tuning, you pretty much destroy the last hiding place for the God of the gaps. And what's really impressive is that it's done using the same body of evidence that theologians have been claiming as their own.
Yeah.
So I guess my question is two-part. First, how